art and ICT in the sense that art is information somebody wants to communicate and uses technology to facilitate that coming into being and that communication. So next to the gallery, because I came into that rather organically, I'd been working as a teacher, a lecturer, a consultant for FP6 with Ethics of Science at the European Commission, a lot of different things. And since 2007, I was an independent writer, creative consultant, curator. Like many people, I noticed the money drying up. Jobs got paid worse. There were more and more free interns in the scene. And I thought, okay, how am I going to sustain? What am I going to do? And I opened an office. I thought the office will put a roof over my activities. It'll make it possible to meet clients and partners and bring people into what I'm doing. And then it became a project space after like a month because we were showing the artists that I'd been working closely with since I was writing about them. And about a month later, we realized, well, that's the trajectory of a gallery. You start as a project space, and then you become a commercial gallery. So we just sort of jumped right over it and became a gallery with the attitude that in the first 2 years, the goal was not to have to sell. Now, of course, to sell objects, for example, is good for the artist because it puts money back into the bigger pot. You know, it gets you, it's not about profit, it's about paying the rent, it's about building a bigger audience, and it's very important. But in the beginning, we thought more important was protecting our freedom of speech and doing things that people might not have felt comfortable with or recognized, but that allowed us to build the audience that we were comfortable with because they were interested in what we were doing and not what we were selling. So that was the starting point. So next to the gallery, I still do a lot of different activities to make ends meet, and I'm going to talk about that. This first image comes from one of those activities. I still write. One of my assignments is a cultural magazine in Brussels called The Agenda. It's a free weekly trilingual magazine. This is an image from a show called No Country for Young Men, which opened at the Beaux-Arts in Brussels just last week. It's a show of Greek contemporary art. Right now is the Greek or the Hellenic presidency of the European Council. So I don't know if you know, but every 6 months there's a new president of the European Council. And with the presidency comes a lot of government subsidized funding for cultural events. And generally, these are cheerleading shows, you know, because you can't be critical, right? You're showing the cultural heritage of a country, the contribution of a country, and what's great. But the room for a critical voice in a government-financed project can be very complicated. So I had the real pleasure of interviewing Katerina Gregos, the curator of the show, just before it opened for the magazine. And in the question about the value of art and what role it can play in anything. I think maybe that might lead to what Jaco talks about in change management, because for me that's the direction it goes. She said something, and I'm going to be a boring speaker, I'm just going to quote her. She said to me, art per se cannot change the world on a macro level, perhaps on a micro level, but what it can do is change the way we think about the world, how we perceive and understand